They have a lot of smells that they use. Each hive, individual hive, has a smell of its own. And a bee going from hive A to hive B is immediately detected as a stranger because it doesn't smell right. And they will kill that invader. So each hive has its own smell. I can't tell what it is. Another smell they have, again near the abdomen of the bee, if I take a frame of bees and do this and shake the bees off on the ground, they stay there for a minute. In fact, several minutes. They're bewildered by what happened. Bees back at the hive, if I do this right in front of the hive, will stand on the entrance of the hive, point their abdomen up in the air, and then bend it. And that exposes a gland. The gland is called a Nasanov gland, for the man who discovered it. And they fan their wings, and a very sweet smell comes out. I call it the come hither smell, because it tells the other bees where the hive is. It's a very nice smell. And I don't know how it got something, but I'm going to show you something. See if I have, yeah. Bees are absolutely clean. And I'm going to look like I'm making myself a liar. The bees are so clean that in the wintertime, they have to eat honey to keep warm. If their gut fills up, and the bee can't go out to fly and relieve itself, they'll pucker up and die and become a living or finally a dead garbage bag in the hive. Now, bees glue everything together. And all this brown stuff on here is some of the cleanest stuff you ever saw. It looks a mess. Some of it is beeswax, but the brown color only stains is bee glue. And I put some together, a big patch of it. Has a little smell, very nice smell. You want to take this? Bee glue. I scraped it off pieces like this and put it in a big bunch. And that's what they glue this together. And the frame, as you probably saw, had some on it also. And it has a very clean antiseptic smell. But the problem is that when they glue everything together, you can't reach in and pick up a frame like I did in this hive, because it is glued together. So we have to have a tool. And we reach in between the frames and wiggle them to break them loose, and then we can pull them out. But the bee glue holds everything together and protects the bees because they make the entrance smaller if it's too big. And in the wintertime, they really glue everything together. Just before winter, they glue everything together like mad, and you can't take it apart very easily. So you need a special tool to do that. I have had many experiences traveling in Europe, in Asia, Australia, where when my wife and I were there, if we saw a beekeeper, we'd go up and knock on the door and say hello. And we've been invited to stay for the weekend in England. We've been invited for lunch and dinner in Australia, New Zealand. And I find beekeepers totally friendly, except for one place, Vermont. My wife and I went to Tanglewood. We had the morning off. The show was in the afternoon, so we wandered around, drove around, drove past a house where it said "Honey for sale." This was in Vermont. We slipped over the border into Vermont. And I knocked on the door, and Ichabod Crane ambled up and opened the door. Remember the story of Ichabod Crane? He wore overalls, was thin and grumpy. Well, Ichabod Crane was the guy who answered the door. He didn't say a word. He just opened the door, turned around, and walked in. I walked in behind him. He picked this jar. I had 2 jars of honey on the table. That's all he had. He picked one up and started telling me what a wonderful honey this was that he raised. I said, well, I really didn't come to talk about bees. I'm a beekeeper. I didn't really come to buy honey. He said, well, you're a beekeeper. Ain't nothing to talk about. I turned around and walked out, and we went to Tanglewood. A better deal. I have never met the likes of that before or after. So Vermont will hold a certain place in my memory. But beekeepers are very friendly and totally loquacious. And before I run over my meter, have you got any other questions?
How many hives do you have?
Pardon?
How many hives do you have?
I have 6. Actually, 3 died this winter. I got to replace them. Which brings up another facet. Remember I said each hive had its own smell?
Yeah.
And no bee can trespass in a foreign hive without endangering its life. When we want to replace our hives, the bees have died, we buy a package of bees from Georgia or someplace. And it comes in a box about so long and so square. And it contains 3 pounds of bees because they don't count them, they just weigh them. And put them in the box. And they have special, what we call nuke boxes, where they raise queens. And they take a queen from that nuke box, put her in a cage, and put the cage in the hive. And this is the cage that the queen comes in. And it has three turned down sections in there. One section is filled with a sugar paste. The other 2 has a queen and about 6 of her daughters in it. But now they put this cage in a box with, say, 3,000 or 4,000 foreign bees. If she gets loose, they'll kill her. They don't want that, so they keep her in the cage till it gets to me. It's my job then to get her into the hive, not the guy who sells me the bees. So we put the queens, we put the bulk of the bees, the 3 pounds of bees, in the hive. We take that queen cage and take it out, and the section with the sugar paste has a cork in the end. We take that cork out, leave the wire mesh on, and the only access then to the queen is to go through that sugar candy and eat it, and then they can kill the queen, because that's what they want to do. But it takes them so long to get through the sugar candy, eating it, that by the time they get through it, the queen smells like the hive. So instead of saying, okay, you old so-and-so, we're going to kill you, I say, hello, mother, come on in. And she moves out. She's already fertilized. She starts laying eggs, and you've got a hive, new hive. But you have to take that precaution. What I liken it to is if you move to a new neighborhood or take a new job, you're not comfortable with the strangers because they are strangers. It takes a few days to settle in, get to know them. You don't get killed in the process, but bees do get killed in the process if it's too fast.